Hey everyone, I'm Jen, and I own a veterinary technician relief business.
And I'm Michelle. I own a veterinary technician mobile house call business.
And you are
And you are
listening
listening
to
to
Endless
Endless
Journeys,
Journeys,
the Vet
the
Tech
Vet Tech
Odyssey
Odyssey podcast.
podcast. In this podcast, we will be discussing and meeting with credentialed technicians who have created their own path with business ownership within the veterinary space.
Our goal is to help inspire burnt out vet techs before they leave the industry altogether through our stories and the stories of other vet tech business owners.
Hey everyone, it's Jen from Endless Journeys, the Vet Tech Odyssey podcast. We wanted to let you know that our first episode turned out to be a bit longer than we expected. After receiving some valuable feedback, we decided it would be best to break it into two parts to make it more digestible and enjoyable for you guys. We're excited to share that both part 1 and part 2 are available today, so you can dive right into the full conversation at your own pace. We really appreciate your support, and we hope you enjoy both parts of this episode. So I think that also kind of just moves us on to the next question, whereas we were talking about technicians, and I feel like a lot of our stories have been pretty similar as far as we got laid off or we felt a little bit pushed out or something just big and major happened where we finally were like, okay, I'm just going to do this on my own and I'm going to figure it out. But what do you think are the main reasons for the current technicians shortage in the veterinary field today?
I honestly don't think it's an issue of shortage so much as it's an issue of retention. There's so many aspects that I know have been talked about over the years as far as like underutilization, underpayment, being underpaid, things like that. I'm doing this for almost 20 years, including the years that I was an assistant during tech school. Early on, it was estimated that the average career length for a credentialed technician was like 5 to 7 years. And more recently, it's gone down to like 3 to 5 years, which is terribly sad. Those main reasons we, hear about underutilization, low pay, lack of autonomy. But there's a couple that aren't always talked about as much. And some of those of us who have been in the industry 15, 20, 25 years or more is that it's hard on our bodies. Like, it is a physically demanding job. Wrestling those big dogs up and down off the floor so many times, lifting those heavy dogs, that anal gland or nail trim twister, that they're alligator rolling or getting scratched or bitten. And although admittedly a lot of that has decreased over the years with the Fear Free, but it's also the realization that it's becoming a lot less family friendly as far as like moms. Like I was... physically starting to have some difficulties myself with I was in a really busy practice, and I would come home and I was just on a regular basis and I was just completely dead, like completely exhausted. I dizzy spells, a racing heart, daily debilitating headaches, and I'm like, so when I did stop GP, in general practice last year in June, I had the plan of I wanted to expand my business, especially that Pause for Care program for the senior living communities. And a week after, I found out I was pregnant with my third daughter. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to stick with the clients that I have for now, because I don't want to pick up a whole bunch of new clients, or there's a couple of places that are a little more farther away that I wanted to look into. They're like an hour and a half drive away. But with those Pause for Care ones, I like stacked them all on the same day. So if I had like appointments or something like that in a day and drove back home, it would be fine. But I'm not going to start doing this with being pregnant. And I don't know how, at 40 and being pregnant is not a walk in the park. So it wasn't an easy pregnancy either. And I was like, man, there's absolutely no way I would have survived working in practice being pregnant at 40 years old. Like, I just wouldn't have been able to. And I've had this difficulty already having some physical issues. And I know a friend of mine who works in another clinic in town here, she's kind of in the same boat. Like, she's got 1 year extra on me as being a tech. She's a few years older than me, and she's having some problems with her dominant hand at that. And she's one of these, she's a rock star technician too. And she's like, well, what am I going to do? Like, I don't know what else to do. I've been in this for, 16, 17 years just at one practice. Like, she stayed at this practice for that long. And,
Oh, wow.
And And it's one of those things like, what do you do if this is all you've ever done? And you're getting older and your physical abilities are getting a little bit less. So I think some of that has to play into it too.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that. I feel like, because I just turned 36, I go to the gym at least 5 to 6 days a week. And the biggest reason why I work out is so that I can keep up physically with my job. I believe it helps a lot. But there's a lot of people that don't do that. And of course, they have back problems. They have arthritic problems already. I work with people who have knee problems already, and their knees are popping in and out as they're just trying to simply get down on the floor, things like that. But also, you were talking about pregnancy, and I think that's really difficult too. I think we all know, just in general, with the way the world is right now, it's really hard for women to be parents and to have that career.
Yeah.
It's really, really difficult just to not have those physical demands just because you're pregnant. And then what are you going to do afterwards? Because the vet field is so demanding and they want you there and they need you for those hours, but you're raising kids at the same time and your kids need you too and your family needs you. So that can be really, really difficult. So I completely agree with that. And I've also seen so many females in this field who are starting to get immune disorders.
Yes.
And
Really?
I was recently, I think I was listening to a podcast, and I can't remember which podcast I was listening to, but they were talking about how women suffer with stress more than men. We kind of always have that higher anxiety because we have a lot of things going on, and there's also a lot of things going on in our head, and we can't handle stress the same way. And sometimes our bodies suffer when that happens, and then we get these immune disorders because of that stress. And I see a lot of women in the veterinary fields that are suffering from immune disorders, and I'm wondering if there's a correlation there.
It totally makes sense. When you mention that, I can literally think of a list of people that I know that that suffer from things like that, like, EDS or just even depression, anxiety.
Yes.
POTS is another one that is been really common lately, and I never knew anything about it except for the last few years, and I know a number of technicians that have that. Yeah, it's crazy that it is such a highly physically demanding job that, and emotionally, like you said, we've all got things going on in our brain that's I don't think that's something that's talked about as much as far as like the reason why there's less technicians.
Yeah. And I feel like, we absolutely age out. Like our bodies, like Jen mentioned, she goes to the gym. And when I talk to her throughout the week, she's at the gym a lot. And I'm that person.
She'll be texting me and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm at the gym right now.
She's at the gym. And I'm like, I'm hanging out on my couch right now. And I am that tech where my knees pop. I have the occasional back pain. But yeah, I mean, and I know at my last couple of clinics, I was in my early 30s at my last couple of clinics, and I was like starting to become one of the old timers there. And I'm like, I shouldn't be the old one here. I'm like 33, like this. And we do it's like, where do we go? We get put out to pasture. We like, where do all these old ass techs go? And I feel like a lot of us, we need to have mom friendly jobs. We're like, 98% female in our industry. So we have to have these extra opportunities like what me and you are doing, Jessi, and what you're doing, Jen, to be able to have that flexible schedule, to be able to say, this is my stop time. I got to pick up my kid from school. I worked my last clinic job. I had a coworker like that, and I give her credit because I'll tell you what, I think it was 5:30. She was out that door and not a moment later to get her kids. So, and there were times where everybody was looking at her, and then I had a side job. I was slinging tables on the side, and I had to be out by 5:15 to get to that restaurant and be on their floor by 5:30. And the demand to stay is too high when we're not paying enough as it is. So having what we do, I feel like is hopefully gonna help. And I hope I did not just answer the next question on that tangent.
Well, and I also just want to say, so I think a lot of times when we're in this field and we think, okay, we become licensed technicians, we're on the floor, what's the next step? What is our only option to be able to kind of have that freedom and not be working on the floor? it's a management
Manager.
position.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a management position. And then that's the only option that we have. And there's only so many management positions around. Like it's not a frequent position that you can get. And not a lot of people are meant to be managers. Not a lot of people are good managers. And just because you've been around the block for a really long time doesn't mean that you're going to be a good boss. So
And I mean,
what are our other options?
outside of that would be like getting a VTS. And
Yeah.
but then you're not going to be in general practice necessarily. You're going to probably end up at, a specialty emergency or something like that.
Right. So, Jessi, how do you feel that mobile work can help address some of these challenges that we're facing right now?
I think it definitely gives that autonomy and kind of that feeling of being able to do more. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but like I feel like the one thing, like I don't have to plead to anybody that I need to go to any time off so I can go see to my kids, Christmas program. Like, you guys don't have kids right now?
No.
So
No.
they have changed. Like holiday programs are in the middle of the day. They're not at night anymore. Like the elementary school, it was 11 o'clock. I was like, so like I don't have to. And
You're like, how am I supposed to make that work with work?
that was a real big struggle was, when my oldest was in elementary school and I was begging, like, can somebody please cover, at least go there and then come back. And it was a struggle. And like people, of course, other employees, coworkers are like giving me this side eye, like, oh, she's leaving again. Okay, you can be mad at me, but I can't be replaced at home. You can replace me as an employee here, but I can't be replaced at home. Nobody's replacing me as mom. And so I can just say, okay, I'm not available at those times. And having that freedom to be able to be a present mom and to be the technician that I know I am has really been a big thing. And we get to use our skills in a different way. Maybe we're not doing an exam on a pet every day, but we can notice those subtle changes with a pet and be like, hey, I think you really should take him to the vet and get an appointment. Or if there's...
Right, you can catch those things before the owner can.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I can decide how much I'm worth. I don't have to have somebody else dictating how much they think I'm worth. And it's not to look bad. I'm not trying to talk badly about clinics because obviously they've got, a certain threshold that they can pay. But, and there's been a lot of clinics that are like, well, I want to pay you more, but I can't. And I get it, but if you can't, then I can't either. So I can't be here. And that's kind of where some of those times where I changed, what I was doing. Not necessarily the last one, but there's been some in the past that I was like, oh, if I can't increase my pay and help me, then I've got to find something else. So, and if I have a physically demanding day, I can take some time to recover, and I can be like, hey, I've got great clients where if something comes up, I can just be like, hey, can we postpone till a little bit later or something like that. I try not to do that. But I don't want to talk bad about clinics. I literally would not be the technician I am today if it wasn't for the clinics, but there's definitely aspects I miss of it. But I get so much gratitude from my clients now, more than I ever did in practice, that even if the money isn't there, it's fulfilling. That's what really is. The money will come, but the fulfillment is the biggest part of it for me. And I think that's a big thing too with anybody who's going into this kind of thing is they get that appreciation.
Yeah.
That means
I know
the world.
I feel more appreciated when I am doing relief and I show up and people are like, oh my gosh, it's so awesome that you're here. And it's like people didn't thank me for showing up for my shift before, even though I showed up for every single shift and I never called out. It's like, oh, you appreciate me now because, but it's so weird. It's like it doesn't make any sense to me, but you do.
Yeah.
You feel way more appreciated. It shouldn't be that way, but it is.
Yeah, no, and like I've said this so many times, it's no longer your DVM's name on the door. So when you get those appreciations, the clients are appreciating you, Jessi, the technician that comes to their home once a month or multiple times a week.
Yep.
They appreciate you. So when you get that, it's such, to me at least, it's one of the best feelings is when my clients are like, we appreciate you. They say something or they give me baked cookies. To me, that's the best feeling because I'm like, they took time out of their day to think about me for a few seconds when they were out at Target and they found like a Golden Girls cup or something. And you probably get the same thing from your clients is that appreciation makes it worth it because you're no longer being told you have to, you have to, you have to. You're in a world of I want to, I want to, I want to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that moves us on to our next question. What aspect of your work are you most passionate about, and how are you able to keep that passion alive?
So obviously hospice, palliative care, end of life care is my passion, and I'm along with being an LVT, I'm a CHPT, which is certified hospice and palliative care technician. And then last year I got a certificate as a companion animal end of life doula. So like I mentioned before, unfortunately in this area there aren't any veterinarians that are certified in hospice or dedicated to hospice. So it's been kind of difficult to be able to do straightforward hospice. So outside of that, like I can do quality of life discussions, which I do quite often. And then I have, a few like vet approved like injections, like Silencia, that kind of thing, blood pressure, sub-Q fluids. But it's not full hospice care though, like I would love to do. So for that reason, I did pursue that companion animal end of life doula program because it's a non-medical, non-judgmental emotional support for the pet and the pet and the families. And I don't have to have any type of DVM oversight to be able to be in that supportive role for families at the end of their pet's life, because I have to have that. It's completely non-medical. And honestly, I'll be honest, when I first started taking the class, I'm like, well, how do I be not medical? My brain is literally trained for medicine for the last 20 plus years. And so my instructor was like, well, you can have that as your background. So you can still make suggestions to the clients, so they can better understand things and be, and especially things like pain signals. I think it's a big thing. Like I can educate that client, like, let's go through a pain scale and see where your pet's at, and then based on that go back to your vet and say, hey, I don't think the pain medication that my pet's on is really doing the job. Can we find something else? And I'm always really good about say a type of medication. Like I never say they tell me what their pet's on and I'm just like, well, there's probably some other ones that could be tried. You have to go back to your vet and talk to them about it because it's not working for you. And doing that's not really necessarily doing full hospice. And so in February of this year, I actually had a veterinarian colleague of mine send me a screenshot of a Facebook post from a friend and colleague of hers, who was has her own hospice practice downstate, and she was looking for a technician to be care coordinator for her business remotely. And I was like, but I know her name from the hospice organization. And so I reached out to her and we did a video interview and she hired me. And so like now I get to do this position where I'm doing video quality of consultations for her. And based on that consultation, the client can decide if they're going to do hospice or if they're going to do, euthanasia at home. And then if they do hospice, then the doctor and I get to like do our little rounds and talk about the client and the patient and go over what the needs are. And I really like the aspect that I can use my brain more. Not that I didn't use my brain as a technician on the floor, but I'm really appreciated for the thoughts and the things that I might bring to the table, even if it's like, no, that wouldn't be at work, but it's great. That's something I never thought about, kind of thing. That's something that like I can bring stuff to the table, and she's really appreciative. And it's nice that it's a small group of us that work for her. And so being able to kind of do that hospice case management stuff is really what I've wanted to do. Even though it's not working for myself, it's so flexible. Like there's days that I needed to work, but they are also moms. And so the day starts at 8:30 and ends at 2:00. And so like it's nice. Like a lot of those remote positions that you see, like, especially like corporate, like they're like, you can't have anybody in your care, you can't have any distractions. And I asked her straight up, I said, because I have a baby. At that point she was only a month old, and she's like, if you need to feed the baby and you're sitting there and you're still doing the stuff on your computer, it's fine. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, she's like, if you're going to be more than a couple of minutes, like, you can go change a load of laundry over, just clock out and clock back in when you're done. So as long as I'm doing my job. And so it's really been awesome to be able to have the position that I really am passionate about. And even though I'm not like physically there, like I have met my boss, in person, but the other two doctors and the other care coordinator, but I've never met anyone else that I work with. Like we video chat. We do Monday morning rounds with three of us, the other care coordinator and the owner who does the hospice, and the two other vets I've only talked to on the phone. So I've never met them, and I'm like, I gotta get downstate so I can meet everybody. So, so I'm so happy that I'm able to do the doula work and to be able to do the hospice stuff through my other part-time job for this vet downstate. And then I have my clients here that I, still get to service as well. So it's a lot going on, but it's definitely a lot more fulfilling.
I get that. And I wanted to put a little bit of a tidbit of information there. I do believe I mentioned this before, but like you said, you're really lucky. You have one of those coveted work from home positions to where you can watch your babies. You can take care of your baby while you're doing it. And I see in all those vet tech groups somebody who says, hey, I just had my baby. I want to stay home. And I think there's this major misconception around that if you work from home, you are sitting there with your hot cocoa and your jammies watching your kids, and you occasionally write an email off.
Oh gosh, no.
No. And I've had 2 of those positions. And each time, like you said, these companies, they're like, we're not paying you to watch your kid. We expect you to be right here on the phone 24/7. And a lot of people don't know this. They can monitor your activity, and they will do it, and they will do it well. I disappeared one time for 20 minutes. My boss, she was like, where the fuck are you at? And I'm like, going to the bathroom, bro. Like,
Oh my
I was
gosh.
literally 20 minutes. And as soon as I told her that, she shut up. But I mean, it's to that degree to where you unfortunately can't have your children. So I feel like that's another reason why we should be promoting relief technicians, mobile vet technicians, to where you can have that flexibility to do what you want, because the remote jobs are not as flexible as you think, and then they're just as hard, if not harder, than working in a clinic, because they're watching your dials, they're watching your talk time, they're watching your email. They trust me, they know.
I spent a lot of time reading records, and some of the records that get sent are, if they're full pages, there's one vet clinic downstate that they sent a record and it was like 300 pages, but it was like one line on every page. It was so annoying. But they're like 90 pages, and because it's a senior pet, I've got to go through, or they've had a lot of medical issues, I've got to go through and look at that, and I've got to read that, and it takes time. And between that and then helping to coordinate, like, if the client that the doctor is going through has a question about the forms or payment, or the doctor runs into traffic and they're running late, I relay to the client that the doctor's running late and their estimated time of arrival is changed to this. And it's not just, I don't get to sit there and watch movies, or a lot of times I am in my pajamas, but
Yeah, we are. That part is true. We are in our jammies, yes.
But yeah, there's a lot of work to it, and I'm looking things up, and I'm answering emails, and like I'm not busy when I do things, when I'm working remotely.
So, Jessi, can you share a success story that reaffirms why you chose this path? Like, what a good success story of yours?
I have had this client that I've been trimming his cat's nails once a month for something like 4 or 5 years. And it was a referral from a local clinic because he was looking for somebody to be able to come to his house to do it. And because he's an older gentleman, he lives in a senior living community. He doesn't really like to drive if he doesn't have to. And the cat gets really scared to leave the house. And so the clinic had referred him to me. And he's one of 2 clients that really inspired me to start my Pause for Care program for senior living communities. He's such an interesting man. He led this very interesting life, but he also had like some short-term memory loss. And so like making sure that he knew when appointments were a little bit of a challenge. But his cat was very stressed out to begin with. Like, it was a challenge. Like, his cat would hide in the bedroom under the bed, and the one time we did go under there and grab him out, and we talked about, I was like, I can't stress him out like this again. This is not what I'm here for. I'm here to make sure he's not stressed. And so we came up with a game plan that when I got there, I would call from the parking lot and say, hey, I'm here. Is Garfield ready for his nail trim? And he's like, yep. And he would close the bedroom and he'd pick the cat up. And by the time I got up to his apartment and knocked on the door, he'd open it and he's standing there with the cat holding him. And, snip, 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 I'd done, within a minute. And then, of course, I spent like 20 minutes because he needed to talk because he was lonely. But he was such a nice man. It was about 2 summers ago, his daughter actually called me and she's like, hey, my dad had to go in the hospital. He's got some really severe issues. He's got a hole from his trachea into his esophagus. And so he was getting food down in his lungs. And we don't know how long he's going to be hospitalized. I'm allergic to cats. I can't take care of him between being allergic and my work. And so I ended up taking care of him while he was in the hospital. And I started noticing he was drinking a lot of water. And he is this 9-year-old cat. And of course, I'm going through my head like, oh my gosh, is it a bladder infection? Is it diabetes? Is it kidney disease? Like, so I talked to his daughter. I was like, he really needs to go in. We arranged it. I met her there with him and found out he was just in a UTI. Not a big deal. But this gentleman had a cat previously who had diabetes, and he couldn't treat the cat. And so I was really worried because I was like, oh, this guy is so attached to this cat. He's very emotionally attached to this cat. After the gentleman came back from the hospital, he actually put me on the account at the vet's office to be allowed to bring the cat in if anything happened. So like I could just take him in. And so I was giving the medications, and the owner called. For whatever reason, they gave twice a day medications, but I did what I had to. So I finished the medications, and the owner had come back towards the end of it. And then I also assisted in collecting urine so that we could do a recheck on him. And then like at one point in time, I was like, his teeth kind of look bad. So he took him in to get a dental cleaning, and I helped took him to the vet for the dental procedure, picked him up. And then just last month, I went for my first monthly nail trim since I came back from maternity leave. Like I had been gone for 6 months, and I didn't intend to be gone that long, but I had some medical complications after I had the baby, and I was hospitalized, and she was in the NICU because she was a preemie. And so I did put it off a little bit longer. And the first thing I noticed is I'm like, man, his eyes are really sunken in. I was like, he looks so skinny. And then I pull up and do a skin turgor test. I'm like, oh, he's really dehydrated. I was like, we've got to get him in as we need a call and get an appointment. And he's like, all right, well, we'll do it right now. And he did exactly what Michelle, you were talking about last time on the last episode, where he actually handed me the phone.
Yeah, and you're like,
Well, luckily,
okay.
so he because of his medical stuff, he's difficult to understand in person sometimes, depending on like how he's feeling, and he's even more difficult to understand on the phone. And this clinic knew who I was because of all the number of times that I've been there with his cat previously. And so I told them what I was seeing and that I thought that we should, get him in, and ended up. He again wanted some help with transporting, and so I transported the cat again, and we went in and found out that he was actually in end-stage kidney failure. It was like really high BUN, creatinine, phosphorus, anemic, all the things. Like the doctor who I am acquainted with, he said he wasn't confident that we could do anything to help him feel any better. He was just kind of beyond that treatment. And seeing this old man who I have basically become like friends with, like he's this very sweet old man, just break down and cry over his cat was so heartbreaking. He had asked to get his brother so that his brother could be there for the euthanasia. We couldn't get a hold of him. We called his number. He called his wife's number, and I was like, well, you told me that he lives in town here, like where the vet was. And he's like, yeah. I was like, well, let's go over there. I said, let's go find out and make sure see if he's home. And so we drove over there, and he talked to his brother, and his brother came and for the euthanasia. And I was really hoping that I would be able to be present for the euthanasia, but he did not request that. So of course I honored that, because I obviously have grown very close to this cat as well. He got to the point where like he didn't mind me trimming his nails. He would, let me pet him afterwards. He'd rub up against my legs. And so like I had built this rapport with him. And I was just devastated when this happened, because like I always questioned, like, what if I had returned back to work before and noticed it sooner? Like, could I have helped him be around a little longer? I don't know. I know I shouldn't beat myself up about it, but
No.
and I know I shouldn't I know this doesn't sound like it would be a success story because I'm crying about it and it ended in euthanasia, but it illustrates a few really good points about what we do. And, it emphasizes how collaboration with vet clinics is so important to the overall care of our patients, because we see these patients on a much more frequent basis than the vets do. Like, we see them all the time, and we can see these little nuances and changes sooner, and it actually brings more business to them. Like, this cat alone, five vet appointments. I had recommended and the client followed through, and that's part of it that we can't control is the follow through. But those 5 appointments, you know, the UTI, the dentistry, the euthanasia part of it, the rechecks, like those wouldn't have been there had I not recommended and hadn't seen those things to say, hey, we need to look at these things. And it's not the only client that I've, you know, recommended and they've gone to their vet because of things. It, you know, it also illustrates how, you know, we can have this rapport and these clients, we value our recommendations and we'll be able to follow through and do what's best for their pet. And then it also shows that we can develop those friendships and that's why they, you know, trust us and trust our recommendations and like going to the vet. And that's just a win-win for everybody, the client and the pet and the vet clinic and ourselves.
Yeah, I think that story speaks so many volumes and so many different aspects of, just like you said, when you have a business like that, you are building relationships that you would have never been able to build if you were just working in clinics. Just a relationship like that with the client itself and also with the patient. And for the patient, I mean, especially cats, right? When we have to put them in a kennel and then drive them to the clinic to get care, that's so stressful for them. And when you can just do those things at home and to the point where he was comfortable with you and he was able to get the care that he needed and he wasn't stressed out, that also speaks volumes. And the fact that the client listened to you whenever the cat needed to be seen. I mean, that I feel like has gone out the window a little bit in the veterinary field. If you think about what that veterinary relationship was and how it used to be with clients when it was so close and they would listen to anything the veterinarian would say because they trusted the veterinarian, but that is not the way that it is anymore. And it's because it's become quantity over quality as far as how many patients can we see in a day and how fast can we get these patients seen? How quickly can we get them in and can we get them out so that we can create more productivity and maybe more money? And when you have a business like that, we're getting that back. We're getting that relationship back. We're getting people to trust veterinary professionals again.
The public also is not as trusting because of all sorts of things. I don't even know the list of reasons why people are not as trusting. And as far as like the relationship part of it, I actually worked with one veterinarian who literally told the staff that technicians are not allowed to have relationships with clients. You're not allowed to build rapport. You're not allowed to get that. I don't know
That
why.
trust.
Yeah, I don't know why that was a thing, but that was
Weird.
literally words that came out of her mouth. And I was just like, I don't know that I can work with you very much if that's the case. Like, you've got doctoring things to do, and let me build that rapport with the client so that they can listen to you. It was a
Right.
really weird kind of thing.
And that cat probably lived a lot longer just because of you. I mean, I know that we all beat ourselves up about so many things all the time I've even had thoughts of, where I've heard stories where I wasn't even in the clinic and a patient died. And I think about, well, gosh, if I worked that day, would the patient have died because of my different knowledge? So there's so many things that we can always go back and forth on. But just from what I heard from that story, I feel like that cat lived longer because of you.
Yeah.
And a better quality of life as well.
Right.
And just to kind of feed off of that whole owners not trusting us, I believe your owner trusted you, Jessi, because your relationship with them is so organic and they know that you are not going to profit if their pet goes to the vet. And that's why my clients trust me. They know dang right well they can go to their vet, spend $500,000, and I'm not going to see a dime of that. So having that medical expertise without any financial gain, clients trust us. Clients will reach out to us before they reach out to their DVMs because they know we're educated, we're trained, but we don't care at the end of the day. We do, but we don't care because we're not going to see any financial benefit from it at all. And that's what keeps the relationship so beautiful with us and our clients, is the fact that we're not attached to a clinic and they know that we don't have skin in the game on this one. And so that's probably another reason why your client trusted you is because he knew you personally. He knew that you didn't have any financial gain in going to the clinic, that you were purely looking out for the best interest of his cat.
Yeah, no, that was a great story.
Beautiful.
I loved that. It was very beautiful. After talking about everything that we've discussed at this point in time, what specific advice would you give to technicians that are listening that are considering starting their own business? Where would you say that they should start, or where their thought process should be at this point in time?
A big thing is lean and learn from people who have already done it successfully. Like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel, and supporting each other is a really big thing. You know, be open to sharing the things that you've learned as well, even if you're new. Like, I learned things from people who just opened their businesses, and even though my business has been open for 6 years, it doesn't mean that I can't learn from you or you can't learn from me. And you know, we don't need to gatekeep things, and there's no secret formula to the perfect success, and you can't compare your success to everybody else because success looks different to everybody. So I'm not super busy. I would love to be more busy, but my life right now doesn't allow for that, and right now I am happy. Like, I enjoy the time that I spend with my business, with the part-time job I have, and then with my family. That's success to me, because I'm able to enjoy things. And then the last thing would be set boundaries. And I know that Michelle has talked a lot about setting boundaries. So I'm not gonna go too much in depth with that one. But I think the really big thing is, you know, success looks different for everybody. So you can't compare yourself to somebody else.
Absolutely right. And is there any resources or communities that have been helpful for you in your journey?
So some of the biggest resources that have helped me, one of them is the Small Business Development Center of Michigan, which is a free resource. And a lot of other states have similar business like help. And so like they literally helped me get everything from registering my business with the state and my LLC and my website marketing help. And even now, like if I reach out even 6 years later, I'm like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Is there anything you can help me with it? And they will absolutely like schedule an appointment for me to talk with somebody and get that help. My local Chamber of Commerce was a big help to begin with. Unfortunately, they're no longer open, and I hear a lot of the chambers are kind of going by the wayside. And then the last one, of course, that's been super helpful is the Unattached Vet Tech group. Like, I love seeing everybody develop or dive into their businesses. I love being able to share things so that they don't have to go through all the same struggles that I went through. I love seeing the success stories from people. I love being able to pick somebody's brain about something. Things like forms. Like, not everybody has access to like those forms that you get, you know, client forms and things like that. And I made some, and there's people on there that have been like, hey, does anybody have this form? And I'm like, yes, let me send it to you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Take it, alter it, make it your own. But you don't have to like go through and make the whole thing like I did. Anything that was a free resource for me was kind of the thing. So having that Unattached Vet Tech page not be a paid thing was a really big thing, because it's just me. I don't have the funds to be able to pay for a bunch of resources. And so those will probably be the top 3 things that have helped me the most as far as resources and communities.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I see you all the time, and they're commenting, helping other people out with those forms. And thank you for that, by the way. You've helped out yourself a lot of technicians in there. I see you in there doing it, so thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
So how do you see the role of veterinary technicians evolving within the next few years?
Man, I don't even know. It's such an ever-changing landscape. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, no, it's the same, but it's not, because medicine's always changing. And as much as I would love to see things more like, you know, technician autonomy, one title for the U.S. instead of 5, 4, I just don't know if any of that kind of stuff is going to happen anytime soon. I know there's been a lot of talk about the VPA, or the veterinary professional advocate, that like in Colorado, it's supposed to be this new position between a DVM and an LVT that is kind of like a PA in human medicine. And I think it's kind of a slippery slope. Like, I'd love to see that kind of expand, but also at the same time, it's muddying the waters, as we still don't have that national title for technicians. There's not that title protection. We have kennel techs and unlicensed assistants calling themselves technicians. And I'm not totally against it, but I think that we need to clarify our roles and before we add more. And also, there's concerns that, you know, we're going to devalue the doctors, and we're going to devalue those LVTs, and LVTs aren't going to get utilized even less than they are now. I feel like, if we can get technicians to be at the top of their license in the clinic, that we'll probably be able to see more stay in the clinic, retain them, or, get them to come in. And one of the things that I would love to see is that professional liability insurance for technicians alone. It's one of those things that, like, when I went out to get insurance for my business, that my insurance guy looked high and low for professional liability insurance for technicians. You can get professional liability insurance as a doctor. You can get professional liability insurance as a pet sitter. You can get professional liability insurance as a groomer and a dog walker, but you cannot get professional liability insurance for a professional license as a technician. And I think that's one of the biggest things I would love to see in the next few years. And I think that this push with a lot of more mobile or relief work is going to kind of push things in that direction so that we can get some liability insurance for ourselves, so that we're not always going to be under a doctor's license insurance, whether it be in a clinic, or some of these doctors are like, well, I don't really want you to go with an injection because it's supposed to be under my license, or I have insurance. It's not professional liability insurance at this time, but if something happens, it's on me at this point, once it leaves that clinic. So I think that's one of the things as a technician, that I think would hopefully be evolving in the next few years for us.
Yeah, and you're right. That's one of our biggest hurdles right now, is getting a professional liability insurance for licensed veterinary technicians. Because, we get a lot of pushback on the mobile side from DVMs because they're afraid, oh, Jessi's going to leave the clinic with an injectable. Surely she's going to mess up and it's going to be on me. And it's like, no, bro, not. I have my own insurance. It's hard. Yeah. What innovations or trends do you think will shape the future of mobile vet tech relief work? Or, sorry, mobile vet tech work?
Man, I mean, I think that once we have some liability insurance, that's definitely something that would play into it. So many more people are asking for in-home services. It's an increasing trend just in general. I don't know if you guys are aware of, there is a publication that comes out all the time. It's called The Fountain Briefing, and it's all industry, animal health industry type stuff. And they had an article not that long ago, and I did post it in the Unattached Vet Tech page, about how mobile services are being more requested and they are in more demand, and it's a rising trend. So I think that just having that, it's on the radar. If this Fountain Briefing place is seeing that's a thing, we're right there. I don't know. Other than that, people are very much having pets as children these days, and so they're willing to spend more money on their pets to some degree. So that's definitely one of those things that kind of changes how people decide how they're going to care for their pet.
What, if any, options were you exploring before you decided to start your own business? Before you decided to actually go this route, were you thinking about leaving vet med 100% and just saying, screw it, I'm going to do something completely different? Or was your next step just kind of moving on to right into what you ended up doing?
Oh, there's definitely some other things. So after 15 years in vet med, I was so burnt out, and I always wanted to do the mobile stuff, especially the hospice stuff. But as I mentioned before, I struggle with having that dedicated hospice vet up here, and a couple of vet clinics that had dabbled in letting me do those quality of life consultations, or I even put together an entire PowerPoint for one of my employers after he specifically asked me to bring back some ideas after I went to the hospice conference, and nobody ever really followed through. And I don't fault them for it, because they just don't understand hospice from the same point of view as I do, or as those of us in hospice do. And so because I wasn't able to, I just kind of down with general practice. It's the same things, and they do get some exciting things up here because we don't have emergency up here. The closest emergency to us is 3 hours away, so we do get to see some cool things. But I'm just was burnt out, and so I thought about rescue. I thought about a medical boarding facility, and then my husband and I actually have another company making pet memorials, so that kind of goes along with the end of life stuff. And then we've had this idea of doing the aquamation business, but at this time that's not something we're able to do. We're so busy with other things with 3 kids, and hopefully we'll be able to do that in the future. But even though those things kind of crossed my mind, I just had to go with the hospice, because that's really the hospice and in-home stuff, because I just feel there's such an advantage to be able to do stuff at the client's home.
Yeah. Yes.
So we want to know a little bit about your store,
Yes.
Sheltered Harbor Pet Memorials.
Yeah, so that's the business that my husband and I own together, and we make laser engraved and 3D printed personalized pet memorial keepsakes. And yeah, so the website is uppetmemorials.com. And Facebook, and you can find us as well. It's got a lot of updated stuff. We don't have like an official store where you can click on things in order. We actually have to ask people to email us right now. I do have an order form that I hope to put up as like a Google form at some point in time. But we do quite a bit of the like laser engraved granite, or one of my favorite ones is we call it a sun catcher, and it has it's just a clear acrylic with like a nose print or a paw print. We have a black acrylic that we can do photos on as well, and it hangs with a suction cup from your window. And it's a really affordable memorial item too. It's only like $25, and we do ship all over the U.S. We do some smaller headstones for pets as well. Or there was a family in the next town over who lost 6 dogs in a house fire a couple months ago, and a friend of hers actually contacted us and asked us to. My husband does some woodworking too, and she actually has a display for our Sheltered Harbor in her grooming facility. She contacted us and was like, "Hey, I know this isn't something that you normally do with your business, but can you make a cross or 6 crosses for one for each of those pets?" And so he made some really nice cedar crosses for that family. So even if it's not something that we have listed on our website, if people ask us, a lot of times we can say, "Hey, yeah, that works," or we don't really think that'll work, but let's see what we can figure out to help you. And a lot of people also think about like, oh, it has to be a pet that's passed away, but it doesn't have to be. Maybe your kid's going away to college and you can't take the dog with. Like, let's get one of those sun catchers or a little photo on the small ones, or wood, just that they can take with them as something to have while they're away to college, or somebody leaving for a military deployment that can't take their pet. People don't always think about like those kind of things for a memorial either, but it's absolutely an option. With me doing a lot of end-of-life stuff, I always say, if you can plan before it becomes a crisis, you can take out some of that emotion with the decisions. And so like you have this memorial item, and then if something does happen, you're like, well, I've got this now, or the college kid, they're like, oh, we're going to wait to euthanize because our college kid needs to come home for Christmas. There's always those.
I see that a lot. Yeah, I see that all the time.
You can get those memorial items before a pet passes away, or long after if you wanted. If you have a pet that died 10 years ago and you've got a photo that you'd like to get engraved on a granite, we can absolutely do that. We look at some of the products on the website at the uppetmemorials.com or on our Facebook page, and then email us if you're interested in a memorial item.
Yes, and for anybody who is listening, we are putting it in the show notes, the link to your store. So if you want to support a LBT who runs her own business versus a large company from Amazon or Chewy, this is going to be your girl right here. So the link is in the show notes to her.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, of course. All right. And as we are closing out, is there anyone in your life that you would like to dedicate this episode to? Who is your episode dedication going to?
Oh, can I do a person and a pet?
Yeah.
So there's always been people along the way, but far and beyond. And my husband, Gordon, he's been my rock. Even when he was deployed for 30, 60, 90 days at a time, he supported me through it all, pushing me to, did you get your homework done for when I was doing my certification class or my certificate? Like, did you get it done? The whole thing with him coming with me to the one appointment I had to go to check out the other hospice provider, and he's always really supportive of me, and then telling me, hey, let's do this pet memorial business. We'd love to do this aquamation as well. He's just always been there, and we've been married 20 years now. So yeah, this year is 20 years. So
Congratulations.
Thanks. So he's definitely the person that I would like to dedicate it to, because he's just always been there. And the pet would probably be my first client's pet. Her name is Tutu, and I do have permission to share the story of her. I'll try to make it short, but she was this little Cairn Terrier, and the owner was in hospice, and she was unable to help care for her dog, and she had like chronic allergies and skin problems and ear problems, and she had KCS, and So they contacted me and was like, hey, can you come by and kind of just give her a once over, give her a medicated bath once a week or whatever it was. And I'm like, absolutely. And so I did that for a number of years. And she actually, and I'm not a small dog person, so being a Karen Terrier and she's like less than 20 pounds kind of dog, like it wasn't my thing, but she was so chill. She was so sweet. She was actually the dog that like inspired me at the senior living community because they moved in there. And that was the only reason I went to that senior living community because of the situation. So the lady actually passed away the day before I was supposed to meet her. And she had an adult son who is mentally handicapped, but he wanted to keep the dog because it was a connection to his mom. But he didn't really know how to care for her with her medications and stuff like that. So they hired a dog walker, and they had 3 of them. And so when he went away to go visit his sisters, who were in charge of like paying me and stuff like that, she would come and stay with me. And I knew that there was going to be a period of time where she stayed with me, and then she went back, and then shortly after she would come back to my house again. And I counted out like all of her medications when she came back to me the second time, and he had not used any of them. Her eyes were matted over, and like I cried. I was so upset. I ended up actually fostering her for the last month because they couldn't find a dog walker for them. And so I ended up fostering her, and she went into kidney failure and helped transport her owner to the vet clinic so that he could say goodbye to her beforehand. And so she was really a huge part of my beginning of my business, and I love that dog like she was my own.
Beautiful.
Oh, I
What
love
you've
that.
What you've done up there in the UP, man. There's only one you up in that area. So Jessi, can you just give us a quick rundown of some of the most popular tasks that you do, or some of the things that a hospice care technician can do within the bounds of their license? Some of your most popular services and a brief description.
So probably the most that are hospice specific, because actually most of my business comes from like my program for senior living, which is nail trims, glands, that kind of thing. But it's hospice specific injections. So Silencia and depot injections for cats has been the most popular. Sub-Q fluids. I get referrals for blood pressures, and I've occasionally gotten a referral for doing an ECG because I have a little vet quarter. So those are probably the most popular hospice ones outside of like quality of life consultations.
Okay. Do you do a lot of those quality of life consultations in person or virtual?
I have in the past done them all in person, and now that I've done more with my part-time job, I'm comfortable with doing them virtually. I haven't actually instilled it yet, but I do want to advertise it because it's so much more convenient, because I was driving like 75 miles one way to go to some of these quality of life consultations. Travel time, actually, the travel pay is, service fee is the more expensive part of it. And so this will eliminate that and reduce the cost for the client and still get that quality that they need for that discussion.
Okay, so with the corporation, don't mind calling them the big orange blanket if you don't, but your main issue was with the, right?
No, it's not necessarily an issue. Like it just, corporate medicine is not my favorite. I don't like the cookie cutter. I don't like the impersonalization. And with hospice and end of life care, that personalization is so important, because people distinctly remember 2 moments in their pet's lives. The first one's going to be when they got that pet. It's so exciting. It's new. They're a puppy, they're a kitten, or they're just new to the family, and that's the best time ever. And the second one is going to be their end of life. And if you're impersonal about it, or it's that cold steel table kind of feeling, and unfortunately, corporate medicine tends to be like that.
It does.
I haven't been in a corporate vet clinic in a long time, but I know people who have, and so it's such a double-edged sword though with corporate being involved with hospice. And part of that is, one, hospice is fairly new. It's only been around since like 2010 or 11. Maybe it was earlier than that. I don't know, but it hasn't been around for very long. Not even 20 years as like a real people really focusing on it. It's not even a specialty yet. Like the CHPT and the CHPV for veterinarians is just a certification. It's not a specialty. And so in order for technicians to have that as a specialty, it has to be a specialty for doctors first. And they're my understanding is they're in the process. So with the corporate medicine, they have this way to be able to support getting that done. They have data, and not only that, like they can project and tell people at a wider audience about hospice and how, it can work. I'm not a fan of the corporate medicine, but I feel like they play a
Girl,
part.
me either.
They play a huge part in being able to get hospice noticed and get people to understand what it is. So as much as I don't like it, I have to just kind of be like, okay, they're helping in this aspect, and right now I just have to look at the positives that they're doing for hospice and just kind of watch and see what they do.
And you're right. I feel like it should hopefully be one of those things where you can get a VTS in down the road once the DVMs can get their academic credentials. I will say that, yeah, it is cool that it's up and coming. It's becoming more and more prominent. We need it. It's definitely needed, but you're right. And now that I'm thinking about it, I always remember when I first got my animals and then when I last saw them, and there's a lot of blurriness in between. And I did not think about that until now. And you need that personal care. I mean, I've had a bad euthanasia with my own pet before I got into vet med, and that will stick with me until the day I die.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have known more back then. And it's very unfortunate. So yeah, having people like you help the pet owners see somebody there over and over again who's supporting them during the final stages of their pet's life, they're going to remember you forever. They're going to look back and be like, man, Fido is suffering, but thank God Jessi came once a month to give that pain injection. Oh, thank God we had her to rely on in our hour of need. And that work is more meaningful than anything because you are bringing that to the table, and not a lot of people are. And I wish like each state had a couple of Jessies to go around at this point.
I mean, it doesn't have to always just be that personalization. I know there's so many vets that would love to be able to like in our area, like vets used to go out and do home euthanasias for their own clients, but they've gotten so busy that they're just not able to. It's not that they don't want to. It's just that they're so busy, and so it's hard for clients. But there's a way to make it more personalized and a better experience and not just an event when you're at the clinic as well. And there's plenty of other people that kind of talk about how you can do those things to make it more personal and a less sterile. And you can do it in emergency med too. Like I know people who've done it. And people are looking for that, even if you don't have that mobile ability, or if it's an urgent situation, you can still make it that personalized experience to make it a better experience, to try and make them feel a little more calm at their time of need. Like this is their worst moment of their life with their pet, with the journey that they're having with their pet. And so we can certainly do things to help make that experience better for them.
I love all of that. Well, Jessi, if there is anything else that you need or anything else you'd like to say, thank you so much for coming on and being our second guest. And I've always admired your work. So when we put the show together, you were one of the first people I had in mind that I wanted to come on here, especially with your area and hospice. Like you're doing amazing work. So we cannot thank you enough for coming on to the show today to talk about it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Endless Journeys, the Vet Tech Odyssey podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found some valuable insights. If you did, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave us a review and let us know what you think. You can also connect with us on all social media platforms at Endless Journeys, the Vet Tech Odyssey podcast. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making a positive impact in the veterinary world. We need you guys. Have a great day.